Hi there. The first recipe we're going to be making today is called hardtack. It's a kind of biscuit that was commonly used in the militaries through the 18th and 19th centuries, and it was so widely used because this was before anyone had refrigerators. So keeping food fresh was really hard to do. So they used every method they could find to have long lasting food. And that's why hardtack was so widely used because it's three ingredients: it's water and flour and a little bit of salt. And when you mix it all together and bake it for a long time, you eliminate pretty much all the moisture. And so it's an incredibly long lasting food source, which is why the soldiers would use it during the war. Now, let's head to the kitchen and make it. So we're in the kitchen now and we're going to make the hardtack. We've got our flour, we've got our salt, we've got our water, we have a measuring cup and a butter knife to level the flour, we have measuring spoons for the salt, we have a sharp knife to cut the dough, we have a chopstick for poking the holes. This will be for mixing the flour. This will flip it when it's halfway done in the oven. Here's our mixing bowl. Got a hot pad for the baking tray, towel for messes, and we've got the baking sheet and it's already been lined with parchment paper. Got the rolling pin and a cooling rack. So now it's first thing we got to do is set the oven to bake and 375. And now we can start mixing our ingredients together. First thing we need in the mixing bowl is our flour. So here's how we measure the flour. You get our big tub, take the measuring cup, and you go in the whole way, and you get a big heap of it. Now we take the butter knife, and we level it flat. And we do it twice if we need to. Now we've got a flat cup of flour, and that goes into the mixing bowl. You measure flour like that so you don't pack it down in the cup. We need one more cup. Make that flat. That's in the bowl. So, flour's done. Next we need the salt. We need 1.5 teaspoons of that. So we start with the teaspoon measurement. Go in, make sure it's nice and flat, right in there. Next we need 1/2 teaspoon. So here's that. 1/2 teaspoon. All right, good with the salt. Set the spoon aside. Now we want to get this combined before we add the water, so we'll just give it a mix. So this is our mixed flour and salt, and what we want to do is take the spoon or the mixer and just make a little well in the center of it, and we're going to add our water right there. We'll just go in with the whole cup. So 3/4 of the water, 3/4 cup of water, right into the bowl. And now we're going to start mixing that little by little. And the flour is going to add to it. And I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when it's done then, because I'm going to use 2 hands to do this. This is what the dough looks like after the first mix. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it on the counter and I'm going to start kneading it with my hands. So we can just, you can use a cutting board if you want. I'm just doing it right on the counter, so I'm going to dump the whole thing. There we go, and I'm going to set the mixing bowl aside. Now I'm just going to start kneading the flour, the dough together with my hands. And right off the bat, it seems still a little bit wet. So what I'm going to do is I still got my flour here. I'm going to take a little bit more flour and just add it right in and work it in with my hands. Still feels a little bit wet, so I'm going to add some more. And you can just keep doing that as you need to. So I'm done kneading my dough, and this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some flour on the counter and a little bit more flour on it, and I'm going to use my rolling pin and roll it out to a 1/2 inch thickness. So here we go. Some flour on the counter, some flour on the dough. Time to roll. And I'll put a little bit of flour on my rolling pin too. I'm just gonna make it nice and easy. And as I'm rolling this out, I'm gonna try and keep it square. It's not gonna be perfect, but since I'm gonna cut the hardtack into squares, the more squarely I can roll out the dough, the better. So this is what the dough looks like now that I'm done rolling it. And this is about how thick it is compared to one of my fingers. So about a 1/2 inch. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this into 4s. So it'll be nice big pieces. So. There's 2. There's 4. So I'm going to shape these up a little bit, make them more square, and then we'll poke holes in them with the chopsticks. So these are looking more square, and I'm going to take this chopstick and I'm going to poke 9 holes in each biscuit. And we're poking the holes in them so that any air that's trapped inside will have a way to escape when they cook, and that'll keep them nice and flat. Alright, let's flip it over and see how it is. Alright, there, we can see the 9 holes. I'm just going to go at them from this side too, just so that they're really good. Alright, so that's one. I'm going to put this on my baking tray, and we're going to do the other 3. Alright, so I got the 4 biscuits with the holes in them, and the oven's ready to go. Just going to open it up. And the hardtack goes right in, just like that. We'll close it, and we'll set a timer for 30 minutes, and when that timer goes off, we'll flip them. Okay, so my timer just went off. Now we're gonna pull these out of the oven. Let's see how they look. Looking pretty good. So I'm gonna take my spatula and just give these a flip. Put them back where they need to be. And now they go back in the oven for another 30 minutes. All right, so my timer just went off. We're gonna pull these out of the oven. Here we go. Set them up on the counter. Make sure you turn the oven off. And then we'll use our spatula and set these on the cooling rack. And let these cool completely. It might be more than 15 minutes. And since this stuff is hot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cooling rack and I'm going to set it on top of the baking tray. Like that. And I'll leave the baking tray on the stove. And yeah, so when these are completely cool, I'm going to just store them in a plastic container and I will probably eat them with soup because they're really hard. I'm not just gonna bite into them. I'm gonna dip it in soup, and that'll let it kind of soften and make it edible. But yeah, these are hardtack biscuits.